Welcome to the Menopause Stories Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Tamara Beckford, founder and medical director of Truly Balanced Wellness Care. This is the space where we stop the guesswork and start the optimization. We're pulling back the curtain on that midlife hijack and giving high-achieving women the clinical roadmaps and unfiltered stories they need to reclaim their edge. Let's get into today's story. Today, I have the wonderful Mrs. Erlene Lewis. She's someone who's dear and special to my heart. She's my mother-in-law. Yes. So we are getting the stories from all of the women, and we are putting it together because I think it's so important for us to hear from each other. So number one, we know that we're not alone. Number two, we know that we're in this together, and there are many people who have done this, and they're going to tell us about their experience and some of the ways that they were able to get through this midlife hijack called menopause. Alrighty, so I know you as my mother-in-law, but the rest of the world are being introduced to you, Mrs. Erlene Lewis. So give us a quick overview of who you are and the role that you played, because you were a businesswoman. You're now since retired, but go ahead, tell the world about
Yes,
yourself.
yes. I owned my own travel agency for a number of years. I was a mom,
Mm-hmm.
a wife, and a businesswoman.
Absolutely.
At the time of menopause, I was a little bit flustered about it because I wasn't educated enough to know what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
I would get these symptoms. This was like perimenopause now.
Mm.
And I would get all these symptoms, and I would go to my gynecologist, and he said, "Oh, I think, but why am I having my period and I'm having all these symptoms?"
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't really explain about perimenopause.
Mm-hmm.
So you were more or less left on your own, do your research to find out what was going on. Then
Right.
finally, and then finally menopause came. And
What were some of the symptoms? Tell these
um,
women.
the hot flushes, the night sweats.
Mm-hmm.
And to some extent, I don't think I had brain fog to that extent
Mm-hmm.
because I was very busy.
Right.
I
You had a
kept
lot to do.
right. I had a lot to do. I had kids at school. I had a business to run. So I was very busy most of that time. So I think
Mm-hmm.
I escaped some of the other stuff that could have happened.
Mm-hmm.
Talking to other female colleagues and so on. Oh, try primrose, evening primrose.
Evening primrose oil. So you went to your doctor. Your doctor's like,
No, I think it's gonna be menopause. You're getting to that stage, and I'm saying, but I'm still having my period because I had not actually reached menopause, but I was having all these symptoms,
right.
and then it hit, and as I said, I kept myself very busy, so
Mm-hmm.
some of the symptoms I guess I escaped. Talking to other females in my group and so on, they would say, "Oh, try the evening primrose; it might help," and I think it did. Talking to older relatives,
Right.
other women in the family, some of them didn't know what was going on. I recall there was this lady who I knew personally who really ended up almost crazy when
Really?
she had such a hard time through menopause.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, with the brain fog, the forgetfulness, that
Mm-hmm.
really pushed her over the limit. Thankfully, for me, I was busy, so I never had all of it.
Wow. Wow.
But
So
this was 20 years ago, 25 years ago.
25 years ago. So 25 years ago, at this point, were there any recommendation for hormone therapy? Were you ever given any of
No,
that? Were you ever told, no, you can't have it because of this? Or yes, we do have this available, or like nothing was, no options were given to you
I
at that?
wasn't really exposed to that to say,
Mm.
yeah, you could get hormone treatment or whatever
Mm-hmm.
for those symptoms. It
Mm-hmm.
just kind of, slide by you when you decide, oh, this is part of life. So you go have to tough it out and do whatever is best. Drink a lot of water, take even primrose oil. Try. The other thing that worked for me very well was getting my 8 hours, eight or
Right.
10, 8 to 10 hours.
Wow, 10 hours. Mind you, you had young kids and you were
My,
running a business.
I was up early in the morning too.
Yeah.
So I would try to go to bed at a certain time every night, like by
Hmm.
8:39, I'm getting ready to go to bed, and I would wake up like 5 o'clock or 6. So my sleep hygiene helped me a lot, I think.
Absolutely. And you're right in that, rest is a big part of this process. Now, when you were having the night sweats, did you ever have the period where it starts to disrupt your sleep so much, or you were still able
It,
to get your
it
rest?
would disturb my sleep, but since I was aware of it a lot of times, I would
Hmm.
just go back to sleep.
Yeah. So your
I,
sleep hygiene was a big part of
yeah,
being able to help you manage.
I think
Good, good, good. And then you mentioned now, the collegiate and support from your social network with the women who you were around. So you weren't given or even like, told about like hormone therapy. So there were a lot of holistic medicines or holistic supplements that you use at the time. And for those who are listening, let them know where you were living when you were experiencing all of this.
this was in Jamaica, West Indies.
Mm-hmm.
And we do a lot of herbal stuff, herbal
Right.
medicines and so on. And there was this medicine, drink, tonic, whatever you want to call it,
Tonic, yes.
called Lydia Pinkham.
Mm-hmm.
An older relative told me about it, and I tried that also.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still on the market.
Mm-hmm.
The mainstream pharmacies didn't have it, but you had
Right.
these drugstores, little corner
Mm-hmm.
drugstores that they would make up stuff and they would sell it.
Right.
And it helped. I don't know if it was all in my mind, but I think it helped.
Well, I often said that a lot of these supplements, these herbs, these tonics, people would not be flocking to them if they did not have a reason to. So, if you weren't given additional ways to manage the symptoms, people are going to find a way and they're going to test a lot of different things. And what helps them, they're going to share.
Yeah.
And so you said like the evening primrose and then what's this?
Lydia Pinkham.
Lydia Pinkham supplement. I think when I looked up that Lydia Pinkham supplement, you and I were talking about it. It really is a lot of different herbs that were combined, herbs and vitamins, and in some way to provide the relief of the menopausal symptoms.
That's right.
Now, nowadays we are talking about menopause and menopausal symptoms, and a lot of times we ask or we have a lot of people talking about um the brain fog, the hot flashes, the night sweats, but also about like the changes in the body, the gain in the weight, or you're doing things and you're noticing that you're not having the same effect, or that from where you remember yourself. Did you notice any of that within you too?
I didn't change much in terms
Mm-hmm.
of my weight and all of that. I didn't change much. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
my eating habits kind of remained the same.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm blessed with a slim body. So
Yeah, you're
it,
petite.
you're very petite, 5 feet 3.5. So
Mhm.
it didn't,
You got to add the half for all those 5'4" people.
5 feet 3.5. And at the time, I weighed maybe 128
Mhm.
pounds or so. Then, of course, the weight keeps coming on now that I'm a little older. At the
Mhm.
time, I think I managed to maintain my weight.
To maintain.
Mhm.
Wonderful, wonderful. What about any pains in your joints or aches? Did you notice that, or you were
No,
just like, I was so busy, I didn't even.
no, I didn't notice any joint pains or anything like that. No, no, no,
Mhm. So
no.
most of your symptoms were the what we call
Really,
in medicine the vasomotor symptoms of menopause,
mhm.
which is the hot flashes
And
and
night
the
sweat.
night sweats.
Yeah.
And then so when you started taking the evening primrose,
So,
like how were you taking that? Was it every
like
day?
every day,
And
every day.
if you stopped, did you notice the difference?
I didn't stop until maybe 5 years into it. I mean, I took it for a long time
Ah,
and just kept, and then I said, oh, maybe I need to stop. So, but after, you keep taking it because you're getting relief.
yes.
So once you got over some of these symptoms, you would just say, oh, I can't bother to take this anymore. Or you
Mm-hmm.
just switch to maybe some other vitamins or, other
Mm-hmm.
supplements that, might help you at that stage, calcium or something like that to help your bones and so on.
Okay. So now I want to know. There are a lot of people who are going through this phase. And like I said, it's one of those um honors to be able to get to that point, right? To go through perimenopause and menopause, because it means that you've made it that far in life to that point, and that you are alive. And there's this whole second half. This episode is brought to you by Truly Balanced Wellness Care. Most high level women are told that their lives are normal while they're struggling to lead through brain fog and fatigue. At Truly Balanced, we don't settle for not sick. We architect for peak performance. Whether you need a 30-minute hormone strategy session to audit your labs or are ready for our 3-month Jumpstart Intensive, we provide the physician led roadmap to get you back to your best. Visit the link in the show notes or go to www.trulybalancedwc.com to secure your spot. Now, back to the conversation. Of your life that's still available for you. But there's still some women who are hearing these things. What would you say to someone? What message would you give to that next generation about this phase called perimenopause and menopause that they are approaching or that they will?
For them now, in this time, they have a lot of information which we
Mhm.
didn't have it in our time,
Yeah.
and they need to listen to the information and take what relates to them, really.
Mhm.
As I say, in my time, which was 25 years ago,
Mhm.
I wasn't privy to all of this information.
Mhm.
So I kind of just had to think about hit or miss, make
Mhm.
mistakes, go along with it. Your life couldn't stop. You kept going, had to keep going.
So now I know that we keep saying 2025 years ago, but do we want to add 10 to 2026?
So I don't know, it's like
35 years ago.
35, 36 years ago.
Yeah, when we really think about it, so that people could really get the gravity of what's going on, in that this is literally 35, almost 40 years ago, when women weren't given this in the breadth of information is that was out then. It's definitely not similar to what's out now. And a lot of times you're relying on just hearsay
Yeah.
or just whatever a family member, if the family member tells you about it, right?
That was another thing. They never talked about it. They didn't talk about it. It's oh my God, you have to learn a lot of things on your own. Nobody
Mm.
told you, nobody sat you down. This is gonna happen. Yeah, you read. You say, oh yeah, after you have your kids, this is gonna happen. Then later on in life, oh, you're gonna stop seeing your period, but they never ever go into the details of menopause.
Wow, wow.
But
Do you think that it would have been different had you had someone sat down and educated us women of that era?
maybe, and I think a lot of women wouldn't would have, who suffered needlessly because they didn't know what to do.
Yeah,
So whatever I found out,
yes,
I would share with
absolutely.
my colleagues, and they would say, "Oh, did this work? Yeah, it worked a little bit, or no, it didn't work." So
Hmm.
that was how we did it in our time.
Yeah. Did the colleague who had that very rough time during that perimenopause and menopausal period, was she able to recover from that?
Um, I think so. I think
Yeah,
she did in a sense, but it was
yeah,
really a hard time for her.
yeah.
She had to really stop working, as a matter of fact, because she was so distracted all the time at work. She was making
Mhm.
mistakes, and
Mm.
but that
Yeah.
was her story.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we really sit and empathize. And
Oh
that's
yeah,
why we're having this conversation, so that a lot of women who in this day and age will still go through something like that, but know that you do not have
have
to
the
just
resources,
suffer.
right? Because they have the resources to help them.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
I love it.
In my
Alrighty.
time,
So, was there any period of time that you felt like you had like this whole part was a transition that you navigated and you're like, wow, I feel this way or that way about what just occurred when you look and
I did
reflect?
my way.
Hey, so you felt like, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
and I'm out of it. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Alrighty, so I usually ask if there's a song, or a phrase that
I would say I did it my way.
okay, so Frank Sinatra.
Yeah, from Snapchat.
I did it my way was something that you can really look back on. Alrighty, so you know that I am a physician and that I help women who are going through perimenopause and menopause. For you who have gone through it, what is something that you would want the me as a physician to either ask or to know in order to continue taking optimal care, to have our women get like the best care? What would be something that you'd want me to know about women going through this if you were a patient of mine?
First of all, I think once the woman comes to you with certain symptoms,
Mm-hmm.
then you need to dig a little deeper or be a little more patient. The doctors that I went to at the time, they were not like you maybe, who would,
Mm-hmm.
sit down and have a conversation. They would just say, oh, you're doing this is happening and that is happening and this is gonna happen for you and that's it. You're gone. You're out. You're out of their office. In
Mm-hmm.
that kind of a thing. So if you can find a physician who will take the time to sit down and you discuss your symptoms and make suggestions as to what you can do, then that would help.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But as I say, in my time, the physicians that I went to at the time, they were, oh, this is going to get shit. That's going to happen. That's going to happen. You're going to have to do this. Or, I mean, hormone replacement wasn't even on the table, remember?
Mm-hmm.
So that was the case for me
Right.
at that time.
So, absolutely sitting and listening to our women and giving them the space to vocalize what they're feeling, and then giving them the opportunity for you to work together with them to manage these symptoms and to get them feeling at their best.
That makes sense. That's a whole new world.
Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely opens up a whole new atmosphere and
Hmm.
avenue for women, for younger women who are going through
Hmm.
menopause and perimenopause. Once they have that information, they can decide what they want to do. They can have a doctor who will listen and who
Hmm.
can advise. That will make a whole lot of difference.
I love it. And the thing that's so powerful about this whole process is that this is a journey that you've gone through. You've seen your colleagues and, other women who were in your friendship group who were all like high level women also go through it. You see the difference in the symptoms and how it affects every woman differently, which is the like one of the pinnacle of this process is that we're all individuals, we're going through a process, but not everyone's journey is the
Just
same. Yeah. And so having personalized care, having a care that's tailored towards you is such an important part of this process, and that's what we aim to do with truly balanced wellness care. Is there any last words that you would have for our listeners who are listening to this wonderful conversation and your journey?
well, as I say, the women now who are
Mhm,
in that age group, and I have quite a few family members now who have just hit 50, 40,
mhm,
I would say to them, find a physician who will listen to you,
mhm,
walk you through the process. If you're having these symptoms, let them decide what to do. If you want to do hormone replacement, if you want to do other alternative treatments, I'm sure there's lots of those available. And,
mhm,
there are some that have been proven, some
mhm,
that are still anecdotal, but
mhm.
whatever. So they are definitely in a better place than I was 25 years ago. Yeah.
I just whispered 35 to her for those who are,
Yeah.
yeah, time has flown by. So now 25 years ago is literally 2001. But for those of us who have loved and enjoyed this journey, we keep forgetting that there's an extra 10 more years.
Yeah.
Well, with that, we're going to end today's conversation. I really want to thank you so much, Mrs. Erlene Lewis, who has given us her menopause story. And it's so important, as we mentioned, that us women, we're going through this journey. We're going through it because we have the privilege of making it to this part in life. We're having these symptoms, we're having this part in our life But the optimal part of that is the word life, So as much as it can be a journey that can disrupt you, you don't have to go through it alone. And hearing other people's stories and knowing that there are women who have done it their way, that we're still able to get through this process. And there are also women who did it collectively by supporting each other, which is what we aim to do here also, is should be empowering to you. So keep in mind that if you are going through this process and you're looking for a physician who can help you to support you along this journey and getting you personalized, individualized care, I'm Dr. Tamara Beckford, and I would love to be that person. And I just want to announce too that we have expanded into Michigan. So if you are in Texas, Iowa, and or Michigan, we are able to provide excellent care to you. With that, we're going to end today's conversation, and I look forward to seeing you guys on our next episode of Menopause Stories Podcast. Take care. Bye-bye. You've been listening to the Menopause Stories Podcast. If today's conversation hit home, don't let your story stay stuck in that midlife hijack. Head over to the show notes to book your strategy session and to join the movement of women redefining their power. I'm Dr. Tamara Beckford. Stay optimized, stay bold, and I'll catch you on the next episode.